Hey everybody, and welcome back to Cityscape Brewing. I'm Dennis, and today I have an awesome video for you guys. I'm going to be telling you about an absolutely epic trip. We took a brew tour through Europe. We did 4 countries in about 9 days, and we drank some of the best beers that you could get in the world. And I'm going to tell you all about my trip and where to go and the must-sees. Once you guys hit that like and subscribe button, grab yourself a beer, and we'll get after it. Also, if you want to be super awesome, hit that join button below. You get extra special content like my brew day sheets, my exclusive recipes for members only, and you get to watch my videos before anyone else as they drop as a channel member. So hit that join button and become awesome. All right, so let's start out with the basics. We planned this trip about 6 to 8 months in advance, really trying to hit some of the key places to not only visit, have some fun, but also have an awesome beer that you might not get if you don't live close to these locations. And so our first and foremost thought was, let's go to Munich and go to Oktoberfest, right? Our plane left at about 6 p.m. on a Friday night, and we flew overnight. I actually never flew on a plane where they had cameras outside. We were able to see the plane as it was flying through the air, as it landed on the runway, and also as it's pulling up to the gate, which I thought was pretty cool because normally you're just looking at everybody else on the plane and wondering when you can get off. So getting out of the airport, you actually have to take a train into Munich itself, which is about a 30-minute or so train ride from the airport, which I thought was actually kind of fun because as we were traveling in, you got to see more and more people dressed in their lederhosen and all of the different drindel on their way to the festivities because it started that day. We took this whole entire trip by backpack, and so we really wanted to check into our hotel, get those dropped off. We also heard that the first day is super busy, so we decided, well, maybe we'll wait till the next day so we can fully immerse ourselves for the full day in Oktoberfest and see some of the other must-see things around Munich. So we started off by going to Marienplatz, which is the city center in Munich, and really seeing some awesome architecture, the old cobblestone roads, and really just kind of soaking in our first day in Germany. Every little street corner had awesome bakeries and bites to eat, and it was really awesome just to be able to walk around, people watch, and see the city a little bit. But as a beer brewer, one thing that I really wanted to see was, well, the oldest brewery in the world, Weihenstephan Brewery in Freising, which is just by the airport that we just left. So we had to take another train ride a few minutes north and then a short walk to the brewery itself. Once we got there, it was actually getting closer to the evening time, but we were able to get out on their patio, which they had delicious food and awesome beers. And just being on the site was, well, amazing to say the least, because you sit there and think that, man, this is the oldest brewery that's still in operation. It was literally opened in 1040 AD. That's crazy. After that, it was a train ride home. Get to sleep because we didn't sleep very well on the plane, so we were all extremely tired by the time we went to bed that evening. And the next day, well, went a little like this.
Oh, you know what day it is? Oktoberfest.
That's right, it was Oktoberfest. I couldn't have been more excited to get down to the festival grounds and see everything there was to see. We went there pretty early in the morning. That's probably the best shot at getting a seat if you didn't make reservations. And since we only had 4 people, we didn't reserve a table in advance. Walking into the grounds was absolutely unreal. We didn't go into the main entrance, but we did go in where all of the rides and activities were, so it was already starting to see the hustle and bustle of the crowds coming into Oktoberfest. They had a big area roped off because they were going to have a parade soon, but we were able to score some great seats at the Lowenbrau on their outdoor patio. Of course, we got some giant beers, we celebrated, and my wife even got a Radler, which is a lemonade mixed with beer for those who aren't craft beer drinkers. And we had to try the local fare. I had probably the best half chicken I've ever eaten in my entire life with some German potato salad, and that put on a good meal because we were gonna have a few more mugs of those delicious beers. And it just so happened we were close to the entrance where the entire parade actually went right through our tent. After that, we went through and looked at all of the other buildings just to see the differences. And I will tell you, it was crazy. Some of them, you didn't have a single person sitting down, all standing on tables and singing. It was absolutely awesome. And others were more of a chill environment with some music and people eating. And I can't believe they rebuild all of these buildings every single year on the grounds. That's crazy. It was really awesome watching these guys pouring liters of beers straight from the barrels, one at a time, as fast as they could pour them. People were drinking them. On the way out of the grounds, I had to snag myself a Stein just to remember the monumentous occasion. And it has Oktoberfest and the Lowenbrau right on the front of it to remember which tent that we actually got into first. Prost. Although it's busy, it was an absolutely awesome time at Oktoberfest, and one that if you are in the area during that festival, it gets over 6 million visitors every single year, and definitely worth the visit. That evening, me and my wife went out and got a meal on a patio outside on the streets, which was absolutely amazing. It was a nice round off to a great day. That night we slept like babies, which was good because we had to get up early. We traveled by train everywhere we went, and the next stop was Pilsen in the Czech Republic. Our train left fairly early, we got some coffee when we got to the train station, and after we realized that our train was canceled, well, we had to kind of finagle another route, which we ended up getting there. One of the coolest things about leaving the Munich area was actually seeing all the hop farms that surrounded the city. Of course, they were all cut down at this time, but I would have loved to have seen the vines growing up on all of those cables when all of the fresh hops were there. The next stop, Pilsen in the Czech Republic. After about 4 layovers and train changes, we got pretty good at doing the trains. It was a unique way of traveling the country, and it was one that you got to see more of the countryside versus just getting in a plane or even driving. This way you could spend some time talking with friends and other people, and also getting to see the landscape that you wouldn't have normally got to see otherwise. When we arrived at Pilsen, we were at one of the prettiest train stations that we saw over the entire trip. It was absolutely a beautiful building, and the town itself is super picturesque. Of course, we were backpacking, so we were walking from the train station to our hotel, soaking in the sights. And little did we know, we'd be passing right by Pilsner Urquell, which we had a brewery tour scheduled for. We dropped our bags at our hotel, and right across the street, wouldn't you know it, was the Pilsner Urquell Museum. So we decided to head over there, grab some small bites to eat, and an unfiltered Pilsner Urquell, which little did we know, that was one of only 3 places that you could get an unfiltered Pilsner, and it was right there. But the coolest part is actually when we went on the tour itself. That was one of the coolest things that I've ever done. And I'm actually gonna do an entire video on just the tour because of how cool it was. So we're only gonna scratch the surface in this video, but check out that one, it will be up shortly, and I'll have a link when it is in the video description. You can take this tour in several different languages, and we chose, of course, English, so our guide spoke in English. They took you through the entire grounds, including the canning areas, their old brewery, their new brewery, and one of the coolest parts was going actually down into the cellars and getting an unfiltered tapped beer right from a barrel inside of these cellars, which were miles and miles and miles long. They even open fermented in these barrels down in those cellars. It was chilly, damp, and we always talk about oxidation and mold and mildew and stuff in our beers, and yet they're making fantastic beers with open fermenters right here in the cellar. After the tour, of course, we got some things from the gift shop, this shirt, and then we went out on the town to get a bite to eat. I ended up getting a homemade goulash, which was very different than a goulash that I would have made here at home, but it was absolutely fantastic. It came with these bacon potato dumplings, which were also amazing. We tried as much as we could to eat the local fare wherever we were because we didn't want to just eat foods that were familiar to us. We really wanted to soak in the local favorites, and I'm really glad we did. And although it was dark, we tried to do as much sightseeing as we could on the way back, visiting the outside of a cathedral and one of the town squares, which we really were just marveled by the architecture and how really picturesque Pilsen was. I wish we spent more than one night in this location. We switched up our plans at kind of the last minute so we could go down to Paris, which we will talk about in a little while, but I really wish we would have stayed an extra night here instead. It was absolutely gorgeous and definitely on my bucket list to go back. Our next stop on our brew tour, we did a slight stop in Würzburg, Germany, which my friend Adam that we were traveling with used to live close to this location when he was stationed here in the Army. He used to come up here and walk the city and talked a lot about how pretty it was, so we decided that we were going to stop there, get some food, do some sightseeing, including a castle that was up on top of a hill. And when I say picturesque, it looked like Würzburg we were walking through a Hallmark movie. The cobblestone roads, the light rail trains going through, all of the eateries, diners, and things that were out in the street, people walking around shopping. There's this bridge that has different statues as you're crossing it to head over towards the castle. And then you look back towards the city and you see these tall cathedrals, and it was absolutely amazing. We went up to this castle, which was still under some renovation, but after a lot of steps and incline, we got to the top and got to see how cool it really was walking around the castle, including a really picturesque view of the city of Würzburg and the river that runs through there. On our way back through the city to get our train, we stopped by several of the cathedrals, which I will tell you is absolutely amazing. The detail that goes into these buildings that were all older, of course, than our entire country of the United States. I couldn't believe how well preserved and how detailed the architecture was in each one of them. Once we got back onto the train, we headed to our final destination that day, which was Cologne. We arrived at night, but the first thing we saw as we got out of the train station was Kölner Dom Cathedral. How awesome is this? Even at night, it's a statement piece. And if you're not familiar, Cologne is known for Kolsch beers. So of course, we've got Kolsch almost everywhere that we went, including our hotel room, which literally had a Kolsch beer poster as our closet. How cool is that? And we were literally a stone throw away from Kölner Dom Cathedral, which we went and visited in the morning. This cathedral is ginormous, and I will tell you it is even better on the inside than it is on the outside. The attention to detail on every single stone that builds this building is fantastic. The stained glass windows, it doesn't even do justice unless you can see how many little tiny pieces make up each one of these windows. It is gorgeous. After visiting the inside, we went to a local bakery again because they're everywhere and they're delicious and you should not miss out when you go to Germany. And then it was off to climb the 533 steps that is inside to go to the summit of Kölner Dom Cathedral. And once you start, you really can't stop. It is a winding staircase that goes all the way up. There's very little room for landings or breaks, and we got a workout out of it because my legs were on fire by the time I got to the top. But boy, was it worth it. The views from the top were absolutely spectacular. And you even see the attention to detail the backside of the pillars at the top of this building even had. They had monuments and things that people couldn't even see from the ground, but yet when you're there, you could see it right there up close. It was absolutely amazing. One of the coolest parts is as you were walking up the stairs, you could see the years that they stopped as they were building this cathedral. So every several set of stairs, you could see another year added on. It took a long time for them to build this, hundreds of years, and it was well worth it. It's an absolute masterpiece. After that, we went to the Lindt Chocolate Museum. It was kind of a rainy day, so it was a good day to get out of that weather and inside where it was nice, warm, dry, and sweet, because we got to try some chocolates dipped straight from a chocolate fountain on wafers, which was absolutely amazing. We got to see how chocolate was made. In their store, we were even able to buy a chocolate beer bottle, and why not? As a home brewer, that's definitely something I brought home. I actually used it as a raffle item at my local homebrew club, and it was actually kind of cool to give away a chocolate beer bottle from Cologne, Germany. Then it was time for some more beers, and boy, the Kolsch beers were delicious. Even the gift shop had samples of their beer right there, which they serve in the traditional Kolsch glasses, but you should always order 2 of them because they go down quick. Then we headed to the restaurant. We ordered again some German food, which was fantastic. I had pork knuckle, sausage, sauerkraut, and chicken all in this skillet, which was absolutely amazing. And I know I've said amazing a lot because I'm really only scratching the surface of this trip and all the things that we saw. You definitely need to do this yourself. Our next stop was a day trip to Paris. For this, we had to get up pretty early in the morning to be able to make it down to Paris and spend any amount of time there. So we had a high-speed bullet train that took us all the way to Paris, where we were able to drop our bags at a storage locker and enjoy the city for the day. Well, or so we thought for most of the day, because we had a bus tour scheduled on the big bus tour, which was open on the top and amazing until it started raining. But before that, we were able to see some of the sights. We went past Notre Dame, the Louvre Museum, and other amazing sights until we got to the Arc de Triomphe and the sky opened up. It didn't even give us any warning. We were scrambling for our rain jackets and umbrellas and other things because it just downpoured. So that kind of put a damper on getting out and seeing some stuff, but we did have tickets to go to see the Eiffel Tower and go all the way to the top. It was fairly dry in the places that we were standing for the Eiffel Tower, but we did have to wear our rain jackets for the most part. And when we got up to the top, it was so windy you could hardly go out to the outdoor portion. But there is a nice enclosed area to still see and look out once you get to the summit. And boy, was that thing tall. Much, much taller than I thought it was. And the pictures don't even do justice. You could actually feel the Eiffel Tower kind of sway back and forth as you were standing up there just because of the sheer height. And it was also storming a little bit, so that probably didn't help. All in all, it was worth it to get the tour. Even though it was raining, and get the pictures, it was something that I'll never forget. After that, we got some local Italian food. I got ravioli, and it was probably the best stuff I've eaten in my entire life. We got to our hotel in Brussels pretty late, so we were able to get a good night's sleep and then get up, and the first thing you want when you're in Brussels for breakfast is a Belgian waffle. And of course, we found a local favorite. But again, the bakeries and the other shops along the streets had amazing food. You could just almost taste how good the chocolates and the bakeries and everything else was. And speaking of chocolates, we were taking a tour called Hungry Mary's Famous Beer and Chocolate Tour, which is a 4.5-hour tour where they take you through amazing parts of the city, including the city center where City Hall is, and some other famous spots that you might not always catch just doing a self-guided tour. One of the stops was the Mannequin Piss, which is just a little boy peeing into a water fountain. It stood there since 1618, and there's some mixed reasons why they think that this little boy is actually doing that and why they even made this in the first place. But it is the most visited statue in the city and a famous tourist attraction. So of course, we had to see it. One of the more unique places that we visited was the city center, or the Grand Place in Brussels. It had buildings with real gold architectural pieces on the outside of the building, which was super cool and made them really stand out versus some of the other buildings that we saw. One of the things that we learned too is the cobblestone pavement that's there in the plaza is actually taken up every other summer, and they do what they call the flower carpet, which is a floral display that they do every 2 years and must be a ton of work. And to make sure that they get those cobblestones back down correctly, they're actually numbered on the bottom of each one of those stones, so they make sure they put them in exactly the right spot when they get put back in place. But the real reason that we booked this tour was the beer stops and the chocolate stops, of course. On the tour, they take you to not just some regular old chocolate shops, they take you to some of the best chocolate shops in the city, some of which have the best chocolatiers in the world. And so we're able to taste pure chocolate, chocolate balls with whiskey and rum in the inside of them, and several different flavors of different chocolate that we were able to pick out ourselves. And of course, we got to bring some home as a treat. We also stopped at a lot of local breweries and bars that served as certain breweries. We were able to talk about Trappist beers. We had a cherry lambic beer, and we also learned about fries, which are not made in France. Fries were invented in Belgium, served with fry sauce, or better known as just plain mayonnaise. On the beer tour part of it, we stopped at our last stop and we tried a $17 bottle of Trappist beer. And if you're not familiar with Trappist beers, they have to be brewed in partnership or by a monk, and all proceeds must be donated. And boy, were the beers absolutely delicious. It was definitely worth the 17 bucks. That evening for dinner, I had, again, a local favorite, which was mussels and fries. And I didn't really know what to expect because I've never really eaten mussels before, but they were actually really delicious, including the fries, which came with, again, a side of mayonnaise. And to wrap up the day, we ended up near our hotel and got some gelato from a little local place next to our hotel. After 9 days of touring through Europe, we were really ready to come home. We crammed a lot into 9 days. A lot of traveling, a lot of train rides, but it was really kind of worth it to see everything that we got to see. If I had to do it again, I probably would have one or two less stops and be able to spend some time in the cities that I really enjoyed. However, I didn't know that until I'd been there. So now that I've been there once, I can kind of make my decision up about where I would or would not go again. So on that list, I'd spend more time in the Czech Republic. I would actually also like to visit Prague after going to Pilsen. I wasn't as big of a fan as I thought I was going to be of Paris. It was very busy, and one of the things that was a little underwhelming, although the architecture is absolutely beautiful, it's all the same. You see the same color, the same wrought iron gates and things over the windows and balconies, and although they are beautiful, it is kind of repetitive after walking block after block after block of them. And it is very, very busy, of course, being one of the larger cities in Europe. And I'd like to spend my time in more cities like Würzburg, Pilsen in the Czech Republic, Prague if we go again, and other areas like that. I thought Brussels was absolutely amazing. I would go there again in a heartbeat because it just had this unique character. Like it's still a country trying to figure itself out after thousands of years. But that kind of made it unique and different too, which I kind of liked. It also had the most variety of beers in any place that we visited, because in other places in Germany, we got Pils, we had good Kolsch beers, but it was kind of hard to find a variety of beers when we went to places, which is customary for this area, but I did like some differences once we got to Brussels. All in all, I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing this type of a trip. Beer brewer or not, it was amazing to see the sights, and it was great to taste the local beers. You're just not gonna get beers like that in the United States, and mainly because of their water and their process of been doing it for centuries. They've really perfected the craft, especially at Pilsner Urquell, which hands down was one of the coolest things we did all week. So stay tuned for that other video because I'm gonna go through that entire tour. You definitely need to go visit that one yourself. So check the video description. When I get that video posted, there will be a link down there to check it out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Hit that like and subscribe button if you found this helpful. Happy brewing and Prost. Hey, thanks for watching my video. You're awesome. You wanna be even more awesome? Hit that join button and become a member. You'll get exclusive members-only recipes and other perks like brew day sheets, and watch my videos early as they drop before anyone else. So hit that join button below, become a member, and be awesome.